Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Powerful Perspectives. Today I'd like to share with you a story. It's an experience, an event that happened this morning that kind of made me think a little bit um, symbolically, metaphorically, meaningfully. And I thought I would share it with you. I'm going to call it the fly in the window parable. So. What happened this morning was I was just kind of getting around, with my morning routine. I think I was having breakfast at the time or something. Anyway, I was seated, just kind of working away on things, just kind of pushing through my morning. And I heard like a really big like fly. And it's interesting like how, they just kind of, they come from nowhere at some point. They like, you don't necessarily notice them getting into your house, but then like all of a sudden there's like a big bug or something. Anyway, I saw it flying around my apartment here, and so I followed it, and my initial thought, my initial kind of reaction was to swat it and kill it. And that's normally what I do with bugs and pests, is I normally just kill them. And I think a lot of us are like this, maybe, but I don't know. I had an experience a couple days prior where there was another fly, not as big this time. I think it was just a fly. It might have been like a beetle or something. Anyway, and it was in the apartment also, and it was trying to get out. And I think it was by a window that I could let it out, and so I just did. I decided, okay, well, I could just let it out the window instead of killing it. Like, I don't, like, it doesn't bother me if it's outside. I can just leave it outside. And there are some people who are like this too, right? Who, if they find a spider or something, or any kind of bug, like, they don't like to kill it, even though it's a bug, right? They'll just like, they'll put it like, they'll put a cup in like a paper or something. Anyway, they'll capture it, whatever, and then just let it out outside. And so I had done this once, for maybe the first time in my life, because I don't know, just the environment that I grew up in, I don't know, like at my home, where like growing up and everything, we just always swatted, and just killed the bugs. But yeah, I had done this once before where I let it out. And so I thought, with this big fly that was kind of buzzing around my apartment, I just thought, okay, well, maybe I'll see if I can catch it and let it out. And so I tried to find it again, because I had gone and I had opened, there's one window in my apartment that doesn't have a screen. All of the other windows have screens on them. And the one that doesn't have a screen, it's in my kitchen. And so I went over there and I opened that window, and I was just kind of waiting. And I waited for, I don't know, maybe like a minute or two, because I was thinking that the fly was still, circulating like around my apartment, and that maybe it would just, come this way. And if it did, like I would see it, like I was standing there in the kitchen, just like kind of waiting for the fly to come by and fly out and kind of find its way on its own, right? But it didn't. And so I decided, okay, well, like I'm not going to stand here all day with the window open. Like other things could also come in, right? And so I'm going to look for the fly. So I did, and it was like a big, like it was like a horse fly almost, like really big fly, right? And so I went looking for it, and I found it. And it was in my living area, like my living room. And it was on the window there. And it was kind of trying to get out the window. And I don't know if any of you have really taken the time before or noticed this, like about bugs, but oftentimes like they'll find windows and they'll just kind of like knock into it, or they'll just hang out like by the window, right? And I think part of them knows probably that like they can see that that's nature, or that they can see, that it's outside, and they're trying to get back out, but they can't find the way out sometimes. And so it was on this window, right? And it was at this window that doesn't have a screen. And so I was like, it was trying to get out. It was trying to get out, and it had found a place, you know, like a window, like it looks onto the outside, right? But the fly obviously didn't know that although you can see the outdoors, although you can see the grass, you can see everything else, like, although it looks like you can get outside, there's actually no way to get out here. And so what I had to do was I had to capture it and then bring it over to the other window that actually was, I could open with, that didn't have a screen, and I could let it out there, right? And so I did. So I got like a little plastic bowl or whatever, you know, and like my little piece of paper, and I was trying to catch it. But the fly it was hanging out like around the edges of the window, and more particularly, it was hanging out like at the top. So kind of like where like I have like the little like blinds, you know, like they kind of fold down. So I had like the blinds, and I had opened the blinds so that I could get it more easily. So I brought the blinds up, but they were kind of like still in the way, and just like on that top kind of ridge is where that fly was hanging out. And I had to wait until it came down and it was kind of like enough in the open area of the window that I could put the bowl over top of it and actually capture it, right? And so I was kind of like, I had the paper there or whatever, and I was kind of like moving it around, and I was bothering the fly a little bit, right? Like I was nudging it and stuff, trying to get it out of that area where it was hanging out. And it was as I was doing this that kind of the metaphoric overtone started to come about for me. I was thinking about, you know, how God does this with us, or, you know, if you don't believe in God, like whatever, like the universe, whatever higher power you subscribe to, if any, you know, like does this for us. Like we're the fly sometimes, right? We see what we want. We see our desired home. We see our next goal. We see where we want to go. And we try to get there in a certain way. And sometimes the way that we're trying to get there, it doesn't have an opening, right? Even though we might be able to see what we want, even though we might be able to even like hear or taste it, like, you know, like if I did open that window, you know, there would have been a screen, but you could still like, you could hear, and you could like, there would be air coming, you know, through the screen. So it would have a lot of the appearance of being able to access that space, right? But the screen is still there, and it doesn't let you through. But we're kind of, we stay there, right? We stay at that window sometimes. Because we feel like it's our best bet, and we think, okay, well, maybe if I knock against this this screen, you know, enough times, maybe it'll give away or something, you know. But I think we hang out at the same window sometimes too long, instead of looking for a different window and seeing if a different window maybe doesn't have the same screen, doesn't have the same barrier that the current one that we're at does. So I was kind of thinking of that, right? And then thinking of how I was kind of antagonizing or nudging this fly a little bit, right? And I think sometimes like that happens with us too, like in our lives. You know, we have circumstances or people or just things that happen that just kind of like, they nudge us different ways. And we feel like this is just kind of frustrating and inconvenient, and we get flustered and annoyed and upset. And sometimes we think, oh, like this person, like they're just trying to bother me, you know, like why are these things happening? Why is it so hard? Why is everything getting in my way, right? And we don't realize that like the reason that we're being nudged or poked at, or, you know, it's not just to bother us. It's to get us in a position where we can be taken to freedom, right? It's to create, it's to get us out of our corners, right? And sometimes, like, I thought it was interesting too that in this specific example, it was the upper side of the window, right? And so the fly had to come down, you know. And I think of that coming down as kind of like humility or being teachable, or, you know, like kind of getting off our high horse. You know, I think of that height, you know, kind of like that the upper part of the window is maybe like representative of pride to an extent, right? Or this know-it-all mentality, right? Like, I'm where I need to be, I'm doing what I need to be doing, like, you know, like we think like we feel sometimes that we have all the answers, that we know things, we know what we're doing, we know, and that person, you know, there with like the paper, whatever, trying to nudge us, knows and sees better. But it takes humility to recognize that. It takes coming down, right? We need to come down a little bit, so that we can be in a position to be taken where we ultimately want to go. But then an interesting thing too, when we're being taken, it doesn't feel like liberty, and it doesn't feel like progress. Right? I mean, I put that bowl over top of the fly, right? And you can still see, but like the movement is restricted. You can still see outside, but now like the space that was open to him is not the same, right? Like he's fenced in now, right? And that's restricting, and we feel like something's been taken away from us. We don't have the freedom to go everywhere that we had before, but we can still see our goal, right? And then you slide the paper under there, and all of a sudden it gets dark, and you can't see the outside anymore. You know, you can't see where you want to go, and so now you're in this dark, restricted cave, basically, while you're being transported, right? You feel small, you feel restricted, you feel enclosed. You feel disoriented, you feel blinded. But all of this is while you are being carried to where you need to go, right? And then finally, you know, like I brought him over to the window that was open, that doesn't have a screen. And, you know, you can take it off, you slide the paper out or whatever. And then finally they can see. And not only that, as they see, they're able to escape and go out right away without any barriers, right? And they're able to fly off to freedom. And so I think about this in our own lives, right? Like what implications this metaphor or parable has for us. You know, I think it's easy for us to get frustrated by trying, bumping up against that same glass wall. Or, you know, we talk in corporate, you know, spaces about like a glass ceiling sometimes, like, you know, like if we want to gain promotions or we want to progress professionally in a certain way, right? Like we use the glass ceiling analogy. But like we have this idea, right? Like you can see, you can see where you want to go, but there's something that's holding you back, right? And sometimes we keep insisting, we keep bumping against it instead of going elsewhere, right? And sometimes we need someone who knows and sees and has a greater, broader perspective to come along and nudge us. And of course, we need to be humble enough, in a sense, to be nudged, and not to attack the person who's nudging or whatever, you know, like we can retaliate, and sometimes we do. But it doesn't do us any good. It's actually counterproductive to our ultimate goal, right? So maybe realizing that some of those nudges from our circumstances, from life, from a higher power, are actually positioning us, right? They're not just, you know, they are moving us out of our own way, right? And sometimes it is humbling, and it might even feel humiliating, you know, a step beyond humbling. And it's uncomfortable you know, to be pushed around like that. But it's positioning us so that we can be carried. And again, recognizing that while we're being carried, it might not feel like a comfortable experience at first, right? Things might look dark. We might be disoriented. We might feel restricted for a moment. But all of that is temporary. And ultimately, it's the means of bringing us to that freedom that we actually want. So my 10 cents for today. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments, reflections, insights. If you have any like additional like build-ons, you know, for the parable, love to hear those. And I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.